Alright, we're back again doing this for a fourth time because it keeps pumping out views and these are fun to make. So, 400 days, let's go. First mission, basically just continue what I was doing at the end of 300 days. Gotta go get more wither skeleton skulls, and we're gonna fight the wither again, because I need more beacons. Now, I hate being at this nether fortress, just because it's above a massive lava pool instead of some sort of land I could land on. So if I fall, I'm either going to have to pearl clutch and place a block under me, or I'm just gonna fall into the lava and probably burn and die and lose all my stuff. But I do have a totem, so I would be able to survive for a couple of seconds. Yeah, I'd probably end up dead. Alright, day 303, got all the wither skeleton skulls I'm gonna need, so let's go kill the wither. Well, actually, it's more like let's let them kill the wither. I didn't really feel like getting close and risking it because I didn't bring any potions or milk buckets or anything, but I just kind of let the iron golems do all of the work. It's very efficient. All I had to do was get him down from the ceiling, and they kind of took care of him pretty quickly. So yeah, use this method if you don't want to get anywhere near the wither. It's kind of less honorable because you didn't kill the wither yourself, but on the other hand, they will absolutely wreck him, so there's no real danger. Alright, now that we have walls put down, it's time to put a layer of grass over top of everything and build one of the worst mob spawners you've seen. I didn't realize it was a mob spawner till after I started putting the grass down, but that's a problem I'll deal with later. Same thing as yesterday, except the phantoms tried to harass me tonight. Alright, I have a stone cutter now because it's time to start the next project that I am going to do. I really need to finish projects instead of starting more projects. But anyway, the new project is going to be building these villagers an actual home. I realized that villager town was a very fun idea, but it's not very functional because they cannot survive in that area because, well, the zombies will instantly kill them and iron golems try to murder me every time I go over there. So I decided it's time for a new utopia, and it's going to be in a big glass dome, because I thought that would be the perfect place to capture them and treat them like, you know, ants in an ant farm. Now, if you're wondering why I made the stone cutter, I made the stone cutter because I'm going to need a lot of terracotta and a lot of quartz. My idea is to basically build just like a modern housing type scenario and just have them live in normal houses instead of some sort of skyscrapers or something like that. They're just going to live in normal houses, and each house is going to be relegated by what job they have. If I'm gonna build this glass dome, though, I'm gonna need glass, and I am nowhere near a desert. So I just went out and found one, and now it's time to start another project, the Nether Roof Hub. Basically, the idea is I'm gonna put my entire Nether Hub on the Nether Roof, which this is nothing unique, but it's way more convenient for me just to move things around, and there's nothing to run into, no mobs up there, as long as I make sure everything's not spawn-proof. And yeah, it's just overall, there's nothing to really worry about. Yep, all 309 was basically just spent putting the portals up and making sure they all work, and they do, so yeah. Alright, for this project, I was going to have a lot of glass and a lot of sand, so I added onto the storage system. This took about a day. And no, if you think in the 300 days series, I was planning for 400 days by building the auto smelter in the last couple days, nope. I had no idea it was going to do this at all. Don't think that I'm not smart. So, yeah, I'm a bit dumber than that. I put more dirt in because that's fun. And the mob spawner continued. Grass placing. More grass placing. Mining out a mountain that got in the way of my grass placing. Alright, new project time because I gotta keep starting a new project every like 5 days. So I can't actually finish anything. Anyway, we're gonna be building a big pipe. And you may be questioning, what do you mean by that? I'm going to be building a big stone pipe around the entrance of my base, so that way in the wall there's going to be a big gap that I could basically just bring my boat through, and then I can get into my base easier. And also, I didn't really want to cover this area up and not have any access to it besides going all the way down to the front door, because it is still pretty useful, so I wanted to weigh in, but you'll see the finished product. Alright, I got the basic main tube design out. Now I just had to do a smaller tube that would go around my fishing area. Alright, the tube is all finished up, but I do have one last thing that I wanted to do. I want to put in a big piston door so that way I can drive my boat in from the water all the way into my base. Now the redstone for the actual piston door itself was actually pretty easy. The issue was putting in the buttons because I built it in an area where if I moved the wall, the pipe would look weird. So I had to make it an indent instead of it coming out. So it was a bit tricky to fit some buttons in there, but I eventually ended up doing it. I added onto the storage system today because there was a lot of redstone components that I ended up using pretty frequently that I needed, so I just decided to put them in the auto storage system so they're easier to get to. Today I also realized that all the wool from my wool farm never ended up going to my storage system. So I decided to go down there and take a look at the issue, and I figured out that a line of redstone that was powering the circuits in for the lights in the basement were also powering the hopper, which means no items are going through. So all of that wool has just been stockpiling. The moment I emptied it, though, I had another issue. So the issue was that the machine that was keeping all the wool together and just sitting there was actually doing me a favor, because in this new sorting system, I hadn't actually hooked up an auto sorter for blue and white wool, meaning all of it was just spitting out at the end, and I ended up having to burn a lot of wool that's been sitting in there since I basically started the world. And in order to stop wool loss, I decided that it was time to add on to the auto sorting system, because that's just my favorite thing to do now. So I added on white and blue wool, and I figured if I was going to end up just putting wool in, I also had the red wool from the circuit lines, and I was going to make other types of wools as well, so that way I could keep all the wool together, so that way it would look nice. May I interest you in more dirt? I spent more time today setting up different wool colors on the auto sorting system, and I spent all of today basically just getting the actual sorting system part of it set up. Today we're setting up the borders of Villager Town, or whatever I'm going to call it. I don't really know yet. I spent most of the day in the nether for quartz, so that way I could build the first building in Villager Town. The main reason the hospital is being built is because I want villagers to actually be bred here, so that way the town can populate. So I'm going to put in an auto breeder on the top floor of the hospital, so babies will just drop down and then they'll come and basically populate the village. Basically just worked on the hospital today. Set up the pathway that I was going to need to transport the villagers into the actual villager town. The villagers are all moved over, well, most of them at least. And now I have an army of stonecutters, so I'm just going to buy things and build houses of whatever they sell me. I basically spent my entire life savings today just upgrading them and making sure they can sell me quartz for the hospital. Today I started working on the stonecutter house. To be honest, I might put some toolsmiths in there as well, just so I can sell them iron and then immediately go over to the stonecutters, but that's a later project. Right now, I still gotta make sure this place is functional. Working on roofing today, what fun! Because of the construction, I didn't really account for how you can get inside of the walls, and a zombie ended up getting inside and then infecting the main guy I needed for green terracotta. So I had to heal him, and that was the project I was going to work on tomorrow. Alright, he's healed now, and I got the achievement, because I'm just that good. There was some damage to the base, so I had to repair the greenhouse. Basically, a creeper exploded in the back and knocked out part of the wall, so I had to fix that up. Today I decided that it was time to start another new project at Villager Town. I thought that a subway would be a good and creative way to get back and forth from my main base and Villager Town. I kept having to run through the giant field, and that was incredibly dangerous, as all the mobs would usually spawn there during the night, and it ended up raining a lot, so I just get exploded by creepers, ruining my nice land. So I built the railroad system so I didn't have to go through any of the pain, and no mobs could get me while I was up there. Now, I know usually minecart rails would just have a dispenser that would just dispense a minecart onto the rail, but here at the Hidden Blade YouTube channel, we're more creative than that, and we like to make things stupider. So what I decided to do was make a piston that pushed a rail into a power source, and then your minecart would get going, because I'm incredibly intelligent, and I don't know why I did this. It was completely unnecessary, and took me several more minutes than if I just put a dispenser, but like I said, it's all about originality. Alright, all done, and the rail works, so I think that would be a successful railway. But like I said, I want to add to this because it's a new project, which doesn't mean it can't be that simple. So I decided that I was going to do what I did at some theme parks I went to once. Basically, where the ride went along, and you could see like little show scenes between each of the stops. So you'd take this ride and go around the theme park, and then you could end up seeing like some sort of shootout or some actors just acting out stuff. Similar to kind of like the Jungle Cruise or something like that. But before we do that, I set up a circuit for some lighting, because you have to have lighting on the subway so that way you can actually see what you're doing. Also, I don't want mobs to spawn in it, since the entire purpose of it was to stop mobs from spawning. I needed more redstone for the railroad, so I decided that I was going to build a bar that I could keep all my clerics in, because clerics, if you don't know, sell redstone, which is all that I need. I also need glowstone from them so I can make redstone lamps. So I decided to build them a bar called the brewing pot, where I can keep all of them. I tried to set up a system where the bar would only open at night because I thought that was creative, but I realized that villagers need to get in during the day, so I had to destroy the system just because it's not very functional. And I did the trick where you can put minecart into stairs just so it looks like you're sitting. I thought it was fun. I realized if I was gonna want to do some show scenes on the railroad, I decided that I needed to go clear out the basement area where all of the mobs are. So I decided that I was gonna set up a beacon because that is the safest way to get down there without losing my hardcore world, which came close several times. My first goal was to excavate all of the dirt, because once I got the dirt out, Enderman could stop moving it and my base would actually look nice and not have weird dirt blocks just placed all over the place. So if I remove the dirt blocks, they have nothing to grab onto. More clearing and danger. Slowly and slowly, it started to look more like a wasteland, the more dirt that I removed. Halfway there, and just more excavating. Honestly, I think that I'm gonna have to go fight some more withers soon, because I'm running out of beacon powers all over the base. My base is honestly just too big, and I need to figure out where even spacing for each beacon would be. It is time for the great dig, where I dig out half of the entire hill that was covering my main island. Digging. Just a lot of digging. Just digging. Because why not? It's digging. Who doesn't like digging? So much fun. The digging is. Do you enjoy digging? Of course you enjoy digging. Everyone enjoys digging. Look at how much fun I am having digging. I'm just enjoying myself. It's great. Digging. Digging is so much fun. The mobs aren't helping with the digging though, because every time a creeper gets next to me, they keep exploding holes in my beautiful and perfect flat land. The way I decided to dig was I was going to do all of the dirt on the top first, and then start to take out the stone. Sometimes while I'm mining some of the grass, I'll encounter gravel. What fun! Sometimes I have to take a break to go repair my tools from the digging. Eventually I started working my way down layer by layer, just mining out the stone. I just get swarmed by mobs. It's just so much fun. I'll tell you that I got tons and tons of money after doing this, since I kept trading with villagers just for the experience and not for the emeralds. I had so many emeralds, I made 64 blocks of emeralds because I had so many emeralds. I'm slowly running out of things that I can talk about the whole, so how's your day going? Interesting. How about the video? You liking it? Is it entertaining? You should hit the subscribe button. No, you shouldn't. Well, I think you should. I think it'd just be pretty nice, because I put in all this work making this video and digging this hole. So just you should hit it, and thanks for that, I guess. Anyway, I took a break from digging because I was nearly finished, and I figured out that all of the villagers in Villager Town were basically wiped out. There was only like 5 people left, and the villagers in the villager breeder weren't actually breeding anything. So I had to figure out why those two weren't making any more villagers, and I eventually figured it out. Apparently, the beds did not have enough room above them. So once I fixed that, they immediately started breeding with all the potatoes they had stacked up. I finished the hole and got it all lit up. I just went around my land and looked at how everything looks destroyed and under construction today. It's awfully beautiful. We're going to the Nether Fortress. Well, I got all of the wither skeleton skulls, but I lost the footage of me killing the wither, so you're just gonna have to take my word on it in this mysterious beacon that appears in my inventory. I killed the wither, I swear, I just don't have the footage. Alright, so I started setting up some new beacons around the base, just so that way I have full beacon powers around the entire base. Just building another beacon today. And then I ran back into the Nether Fortress, because I need more beacons. Then I had a fun minute wither fight, because he is just so challenging in the late game. Today I started working on the bank, which is where I'm going to put all of my emerald blocks and emeralds in general. But I realized that I really need to get some more organization on my main base in order to finish Villager Town. Working on it and all these cluttered chests just personally annoys me. So I decided that after I finish the bank, I was going to stomp on Villager Town probably until 500 days and just focus on the auto sorting system. I decided to reuse the daylight sensors from the bar and instead use them at the bank, because the bank isn't open at night, I think. I decided that the first step that I needed to do was get all the blocks laid out that I was going to want to sort, or I'm going to need to sort. So I took out some of the most common blocks I had in my chest, and I decided that's just what I was going to sort. But I did end up running into the pipeline that basically carried most of the iron, sugarcane, and wool, so I had to figure out how I was going to reroute that around my storage system, and then above where the water is, which the water is what pushes the items along and makes them actually get sorted. That probably didn't make much sense, but it makes sense in my head, or if you know how auto sorting systems work. I spent the entire day chopping trees because I knew I was going to need them eventually, and I tree chopped all the next day. And then I had to fix up the iron farm and the iron pipeline because I moved the lava, and that burned all the fence gates that made the water go into the lava, which would push the iron golems into the lava. But as I removed the lava, they can no longer burn, so they ended up stacking up, and I had to go burn them, and it was a whole thing, and got everything fixed, so don't worry about it. Then I had to dig out the area where the auto sorting system would go, so I'm back to my favorite thing, digging. Yay! I'm now questioning why I put a light system in my base, because if one of those redstone circuits breaks, not only am I going to have to find it, but the entire base is going to become like it is now, infested with mobs, and I'm not going to be able to go anywhere without a creeper blowing up all my work. Alright, I'm sick of these mobs. I'm setting up some lighting so that way they won't spawn. I had to repair the entire circuit for the iron farm because I ended up breaking it because it was put on stone, and I didn't realize that it was the circuit that I needed to use the iron farm. Done with everything else, it's actually time to start putting in some framing, and then we're going to work on the actual sorting system. I started to put in some of the chests today. Chests in, time for the comparatives. And that's the redstone torches in, and that's the hoppers in. Alright, all the systems are in. Now I just have to do the fun part and put all the sorting blocks in and the blocks I actually want sorted. It was all basically just sorting today. And then I figured out that the entire system for my iron farm broke, so I had to repair that, and the solution was just to add a circuit that went into the hopper, so every time a block dispensed, it would also stop the hopper from putting a new item into the dropper, and then the dropper could dispense, a new item would go in, and then it would stop the next item. Basically, items just kept coming in too quickly. And then I got to do the fun part of actually watching everything get sorted through my sorting system, which was very satisfying. At this point, I've been trained to just dig for the sorting system. It's all I know. It's all I know how to do. It's all I must do. So I decided to dig for the sorting system. So I was trying to dig, and then I ran to the circuit for the lighting for the hallway that leads up to the tower. So I had to deal with that. So I ended up moving the entire circuit around so that now it sits on ground level with the rest of my base instead of underneath the base. The digging's done, and I started setting up the redstone line to light up the entire rest of the storage area. I started putting in the flooring that was going to go around the lights today, and every little while I had to go back to the villagers to restock on redstone because I kept running out. I started putting in the lighting systems today, which was pretty easy, just again kept running out of redstone. I went over to villager town, and apparently lightning struck them because there were some witches in there, so I just had to kill them, and then I could get back to going trading. Need more redstone, but we actually did get pretty far. We're over halfway with the area I need to cover. But I am also running out of emeralds, so this is becoming a problem very fast. I got bored, so I got the Caves and Cliffs achievement, which requires you from jumping from the top of the world to the bottom of the world. What a fun achievement. I moved some of the mossy cobble structures from above ground into the secret area where I'm keeping some relics. That'll be used for a project maybe in 500 days, though I doubt it. I cleaned up the warehouse because I might need that for a project in 500 days. But again, that's another thing I might or might not get to. Most of day 400 was just getting all of my animals up to this little porch area I made that overlooks Villager Town, which I thought it was pretty nice. And with that, that brings us to the end of another 100 days. That's 400 days completed. See you in 500 days. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, and all the other YouTuber stuff. Bye.